Go in depth with our esteemed panel. First, Dr. Robert George, Chairman of the United States Commission on International Religious Freedom. He is also the McCormick Chair of Jurisprudence at Princeton University, joining us live this morning from Princeton. And likewise, from his home in Holland, Michigan, my former House colleague, Pete Hoekstra, the former Chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Gentlemen, to you both, we thank you for joining us this morning. And let us begin, Dr. George, with you. James Foley was a devout Catholic. We know he was held hostage in Libya for 6 weeks back in 2011. While attending Marquette, he said prayer was an important part of his life. And during that first kidnapping, quote, "I prayed my mom know I was okay. I prayed I could communicate through some cosmic reach of the universe to her. I said 10 Hail Marys between each Our Father. It took a long time, and it helped to keep my mind focused." Dr. George, did Mr. Foley's faith ultimately play a role in his fate?
We can't know, at least we don't know as of now, all the details. But it's certainly true that he was outspoken about his Christian faith. I have no doubt that his captors and tormentors knew about that. It's a reasonable inference, though not a certainty, that in fact it was his faith that sealed his fate. We shouldn't claim more than we can know, but we can certainly hold Mr. Foley up as a model of courage and a model of fidelity. He would not abandon his Christian faith under any circumstances.
Pete, now to you. We know that ISIS had thousands of people stranded on Mount Sinjar over the past couple of weeks. There was a coordinated effort to rescue those people. It appeared for a time as if we would see U.S. Special Forces or some U.S. role in that rescue. Subsequently, our Pentagon walked it back, saying, gee, some people have gotten out of there. It's not as bad as it seems. Do you have any news on the fate of the people who were there trapped on Mount Sinjar?
Well, in our discussions with the folks over there, it appears that most of them found a land bridge to get to northern Iraq into the Kurdish region, where the Kurds are now providing them with humanitarian relief. They're providing them with security and the things that are necessary to keep them safe. The issue here is the Kurds just don't have enough military equipment. They need humanitarian relief. There is so much that needs to be done, and not enough support is going into northern Iraq to help either the religious minorities that have fled to the north, or to equip the Peshmerga to not only provide security for these folks, but to start driving the Islamic State back and hopefully to eliminate them. They need more help.
Pete, we also received reports this morning that 40 worshipers were killed at a Sunni mosque in Iraq. So this persecution isn't just limited to Christians. There continues to be sectarian strife that we've seen figure in so many geopolitical battles in the Islamic world. It appears that continues unabated now in Iraq.
Oh yeah, while the primary focus continues to be on religious minorities, the Christian religious minorities, the Jewish community, but there are, ISIL, the Islamic State, they will also go after people who interpret and believe the Muslim faith different than what they do. As Dr. George has stated in the petition that he's brought to the White House, congratulations on doing that and encouraging everybody to sign up to that petition calling to stop this genocide. The Islamic State needs to be confronted. It needs to be eliminated. It is a brutal force, and it is committing genocide in Syria and Iraq, and it will continue to commit genocide wherever it plants its flag.
Well, Dr. George, Pete just mentioned your petition. Why don't we get a few more details on what it is you have been working to do here in the United States?
Well, thank you, JD, and I want to thank Congressman Hoekstra, because what he said is right on the mark. We do need to come to the assistance in a more robust way of the Kurdish forces, who are both sheltering the victims and providing the resistance against ISIS. Our petition is available at www.iraqrescue.org, iraqrescue.org. minorities.org. And there, anyone can join with the many, many Christians, Jews, Muslims, and others, Republicans, Democrats, liberals, conservatives, in calling for the assistance that is needed by the Kurdish forces, the Sunni tribesmen, and others who are resisting ISIS, and also calling for the destruction of the Islamic State, of ISIS, ISIL, as a fighting force. The congressman is absolutely right. Nothing short of that will do. This is a genocidal force. This is a genocidal element that will stop at nothing. It will kill, it will rape, it will torture anybody, Muslim, Christian, Jewish, Yazidi, it doesn't matter. They will eliminate anybody who stands in the way of their goal, which is establishing an Islamic caliphate throughout the Middle East. So please, everyone, let's bring the pressure we need to bring on our political leaders, on President Obama, on our leaders in Congress, so that they will do the right thing. Now, this is not only a humanitarian and moral imperative that we defeat ISIL in order to protect the innocent victims of genocide that it is focusing on, but it's also an imperative from a security and self-protection point of view. The one thing we know about the Islamic State leadership, they do not threaten idly. They tell you what they are going to do, and then they do it. And just as they have waged this war against innocent people in Iraq, they intend to commit terrorist acts against innocent Europeans and Americans on our shores and in our country. So if we want to avoid that happening, we had better defeat them now. Do whatever it takes within the moral limits of just war, whatever it takes to defeat this force.
Dr. George, as you were speaking, we showed our viewers the website you recommended, iraqrescue.org, so that is where they can go to sign that. And we also showed the horrific acts of destruction as elements of ISIL and ISIS went in and destroyed Jonah's tomb and other parts of the historic area around Nineveh. I want to go back to something else that happened that's very much in the news. Our parent website, newsmax.com, featured a story yesterday with the Vatican confirming that Pope Francis called the family of James Foley to console them and let them know that they are in his prayers. That we understand this Pope has been an active Pope, but that occurrence is not something that happens daily. Is it, Dr. George?
Well, this is an unusual Pope. That's certainly true. He makes phone calls to individual people, and of course, he was not only comforting the family, but he was also sending a signal to the entire world, and that's what this Pope does. It's also worth mentioning, J.D., that this Pope has, in a quite unusual move, said explicitly that force, military force, is morally legitimate when it is needed, as it is needed here, to stop the mass murder of innocent people. Popes do not go around calling for war. It's not their job. But the desperate nature of the situation has prompted Pope Francis to go out of his way to say explicitly that military force can and must be used where it is necessary to protect the innocent.
And a little more than a minute and a half remains. So, gentlemen, let me go back to my old colleague, Pete Hoekstra. Pete, we heard Texas Governor Rick Perry yesterday at the Heritage Foundation talk about our porous borders and the possibility that ISIS and other groups are already here. So we ran that audio a little bit earlier today, but we also know the executioner in the video has been ID'd as a British citizen, we believe a British citizen, quite possibly with American passports. Now, what does that portend in terms of intelligence, and also what does that mean to our national security? Pete, about a minute left. We'll let you have the last word on all of this.
Sure. What you've got, JD, here is you've got a tremendous threat to Western Europe and to the United States. It's estimated that well over 2,000, probably now at this point approaching 3,000 Westerners of either from America or from Western Europe are now fighting in Syria or Iraq in the Islamic State. These individuals, they have passports that will allow them ready access back into Europe, will allow them access back into the United States, where they can take the things that they have learned in Iraq and they can carry out terrorist attacks. And as Dr. George said, don't take the threats from the Islamic State lightly. They have said they want to attack the West. They want to attack the United States. They want to bring.
And we will have to leave it there. We'll have to leave it there, Pete. Dr. Robert George, Pete Hoekstra, we appreciate your insights and analysis. We're coming right back.